When you stop in the doorway, the cold seems to recognize you first. But when your sleeve clears the glass, the car suddenly feels awake. Then your thumb lifts the glove box latch, and something papery sighs open. Most people would leave, but the flat tires make you step closer. Then the driver door gives a little, because the seal finally lets go. You find brittle papers, but the folded key is warmer than metal. Then your fingers drag through dust, and the hood feels strangely warm. When the stale leather hits you, it smells older than the garage. For a second, you just hold it, because weight can feel like proof. When you crack the door, old leather and fuel answer before memory does. For a second, you freeze, because the key is still there. When the lamplight hits the dash, the empty gauges look back expectantly. For a second, the key in your palm feels heavier than metal. You turn it gently, but only a dry click answers back. So you slide into cracked leather, and the smell pins you there, because the glove box still holds papers. This stops feeling abandoned and starts personal, and old paperwork slides into your lap. After one turn, nothing answers, but the silence feels strangely personal. So you lift the hood, and every seized piece asks what you need. By the time you unfold them, this already feels less like money. By the time you exhale, your other hand is already reaching tools. By the time you reach for a wrench, walking away already feels dishonest. After that, your hand finds the hood latch and something pulls harder. Then something drips beneath the engine and you kneel closer anyway. Then your thumb finds a folded photo tucked behind the registration papers. But beneath the passenger seat, your fingers catch folded papers taped underneath. Then, under the air cleaner, the soot looks wrong for simple neglect. For a second, you stop breathing because the car is in it. Then you peel them free, and dust falls like something hiding its breath. But the burn trail along the wiring says someone forced life here. But the blurred figure beside the fender wears your father's old jacket. For a second, you calculate the cost warmer than the frozen ratchet, because hidden damage multiplies quietly. When you hold it under the lamp, the garage feels suddenly smaller. When you unfold the top sheet, a pressed flower slips out. When the battery tray shifts, a folded paper slips out like a confession. So the seized bolt in your hand stops being only a bolt, because someone saved that here. The car stops feeling abandoned tonight. By the time you unfold it, your chest tightens before you know why. By the time you spray oil again, you are protecting something unnamed. By the time you check the glove box again, your hands are shaking. After all this grease, the paper hurts more than the seized bolts did. Then a faint pencil mark inside. The glove box points under the dash. After the cracked latch gives, a small key appears behind the liner. So you start tracing every wire again, slower now, almost respectfully. After you kneel with the flashlight, your fingers touch hidden taped wires. So you stare at both keys, and one of them changes everything. And when a tiny spark jumps, the whole garage seems to lean closer. When your hand searches behind the dash. But under the grime, the timing cover shows marks newer than everything else. But the smudged service slip matches a date you still remember. But the grease marks look recent. Enough to mean someone else almost stayed. Then the note in the paperwork matches them because someone stopped mid-repair. Then your hands hover because that winter was when everything split open. For a second, you forget the note, because the fuel hose is split. When the cover finally shifts, a cracked guide explains the silence too well. You price the missing parts again, but the numbers feel almost insulting. So the cheap fantasy fades while clamps, hose, and time start adding up. For a second, you feel the cost widen, and your chest tightens with it. For a second, you consider stopping, then the fuel line gives way. When you lean inside, the stale leather smell lands exactly like winter once did. By the time you look up, your reflection in chrome seems briefly older. When the brittle hose cracks open, stale gasoline breathes out. So you
like
set the
memory.
broken piece beside
After
the
that,
key,
fixing
and keep
a
going
car
anyway.
feels dishonest,
So
because you
you
are
back
touching
away,
absence
coughing.
instead.
Yet your chest loosens with strange relief. By the time the fresh line is seated, you dare one brief connection. After another careful turn, the crank settles where the engine almost remembers. By the time fresh rubber meets the fitting, the car feels less innocent. Then the needles shiver awake, and your hand stays on the key. Then a tiny spark snaps at the lead, and you lean closer still. After that small surrender, you reach for the key before thinking. You straighten up to leave, because tonight the garage suddenly feels borrowed. But standing there in the cold, you finally imagine leaving it unfinished. But your hands finally drop, and for a second you almost leave. But your sleeve catches the paperwork, and one envelope slips open. Then you stack the papers, because order hurts less than another failure. Then the cold door looks easier than one more broken promise. For a second you almost ignore it. Then a photograph slides free. For a second, one thin page catches under your thumb, but when you turn, a paper edge catches under the seat rail. When you lift it closer, the Mustang is parked beside your childhood coat. When you unfold it, a grease print matches your own crooked left thumb. For a second, you recognize the little horse sketch from your father's notes. So the car was never random, but waiting where your memory had hidden. So you lean inside again and search where nobody had reason to. So the car was never random, it was waiting where grief hid it. By the time your hands stop shaking, the cracked seat means something else. By the time your fingers find the taped key, the car feels personal. Because of that, even the cracked wheel feels warm beneath your palm. After all this rust, you see a trace of being carried here. After that, every seized bolt seems like someone asking you not to stop. After that, you go back to the engine and notice one loose lead. Then you reach for the key again, as another detail catches lamplight. But when you reach for the starter again, something in you moves first. By the time the key rises again, something else is about to wake. After the drive, the engine clicks softly, but your hands do not move. But in the cooling tick, you realize silence feels nothing like emptiness. After the drive, the ticking engine sounds almost human in the dark. Then the paperwork catches your eye, waiting where you left it before. Then your hand finds the key, because selling it suddenly feels like erasing. You hold the key still, but your hand does not leave. For a second, selling feels clean, because money turns effort into something explainable. For a second, the paperwork waits untouched, while your thumb circles worn metal. For a second, selling it feels sensible, clean, and strangely empty. But the cracked seat answers back, and you remember why you stayed. When you glance at the seat, you see who survived here with you. Then the cracked seat remembers your wait, because it learned your waiting. By the time it ran, you had fixed a place inside yourself. So you fold the papers away, not carefully, but like refusing goodbye. By the time the warm gauges settle, you know profit cannot answer. So you leave the papers after all these nights and close your hand. Keeping it feels less ownership than honest witness. When you look through the dusty windshield, the road feels secondary now. When the cover slides over the hood, it feels less like hiding. By the time you sit behind the wheel, the choice has weight. So you fold the paperwork away and slide the key back. And when you kill the light, you already know your return. And when you turn the key again, something ahead still asks more. After everything, you keep the car because it kept you